Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Brothers in Arms, a new way for men to talk. I am your host, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I'm joined today by my brothers, Dr. Dan Radner and comedian Eric Nieves. What's happening, brothers?
Great to see you, Edgar. Really glad to be back.
Yes, yes. What about you, Eric?
Man, I'm so excited to be here to see your shiny head in blue lights. It warms my heart. Always.
So weird.
I know, right?
So weird. That's the way we starting off.
Let me make you awkward from the beginning.
That's so weird, dude.
Well, it kind of just
that
breaks
makes me
things
want to do
open,
it
you know?
all over again.
Well, exactly. You know, this is a new way to talk, and we talk about how much we admire the shininess of our friends' heads. Like, that's just
Okay.
shiny.
All right. All right, Dr. Dan, you have anything to add to that?
No, your head seems totally normally shiny to me, but I think it's just great to have you here with me, whether your head's shining or not.
I'm glad I shaved.
Don't confuse it. Yeah, it's more of a sustained excellence. It's not like it really stood out today. It's just for the sustained excellence of it. So
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. I mean, it just could not get any more weird. This could not get any creepier. How are you,
We
Eric?
just started.
Your head is shiny. I had a comic last night. I was doing a show, and they said, "Man, I saw you at the Laugh Factory, man, a couple of months ago, man. Great job, man. I can't stop thinking about your set. Very good." I'm like, dude, who fucking says that? It got creepier.
Stop thinking about your set.
I've had dreams
Can't
about your
stop
set.
thinking
I'm like,
about it.
all right, but real serious. He was messing with me, but I was like, it was hilarious. Like, I can't stop thinking about your set. I'm like, dude, I've never heard that before, ever,
That's
ever
terrifying.
from any fan.
And you thought talking about your head was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I've been
this.
thinking about your thoughts. I've had your thoughts on my mind for the last couple of months.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So what's up, Dr. Dan? How are you, man? Talk to us.
I'm doing great. You know, as was the theme of last season, everything's a blur. But you know, I don't know. I feel really good. We had our production meeting last night, and I felt like we kind of recentered, and that felt good because I was thinking about last time, and I was like, we didn't do that, and I have lots of thoughts about this actually. And we came in, and we were fine, we were good, but like it didn't feel like last season that one time.
The connection
And
wasn't there.
I was thinking about why, and some of it is that we talk about how we're going to communicate as men, and some of it is like, let's go ahead and say the things that people don't say. We're going to talk about your shiny head and
Okay.
how
Thank
it
you.
felt last time and that sort of thing. And to me, that's a big part of what we talk about is like, let's say the things that are really going on, like right in the moment, because that's part of how you do communicate. I'm curious what you guys thought about it.
True. What about you, Eric? How you felt about what Dr. Dan just said?
No, listen. I mean, we talked about this last night. I mean, I think we're all in agreement. It felt like a lot of rust. I think I learned that our production meetings really matter more than sometimes we think they do. Because obvious and how I think we even opened up smoother today than we did yesterday, and all it took was a meeting, and and I felt like we just like a team that doesn't warm up before they go play. We played well, but we didn't play to our maximum potential, or as good as it could have been. What do you think, Ed?
I think I feel you 100%. I feel like ever since the beginning, ever since we started this, from the very first episode, it was spontaneous. We didn't know we were recording an episode, but I felt like the chemistry kept on going as we did more and more episodes. Towards the end, it felt great. We did take a break, and like you said, with break, when you do take a break, you do get rusty a little. You forget the flow. And what I find interesting is that we did the first episode, and then no one said nothing. No one said nothing, absolutely nothing about it. I'm pretty sure, like, I felt it in the back of my head. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like that should have been the first episode to come back with, but I didn't want to be that dude. And then yesterday in our meeting, which we did miss, during the first episode, we didn't get a chance to have a meeting like we normally do every time for the viewers at home. Every time we meet the day before, we have a production meeting about what we're going to talk about to refresh, catch up, and we didn't have that last time. But it was funny how no one said nothing till Dr. Dan said it last night, and then suddenly we all agree. Even Greg came on and said, I agree.
Well, if a therapist agrees with it, no, I felt like you ever get to bed with someone and you regret it and you just want to get up and go, I'll call you tomorrow. You want to get out as fast as possible, just go take a shower. So I just like, I mean, Dan, is there something like, from a therapeutic standpoint, what do you think? What do you think was the big difference in what that meeting does when we actually talk the next day?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I was kind of blown away by this because you think of these meetings as creative meetings about what we're going to do, but what they also do is they get you into the bonded moment with each other. Like once I said that and we started talking openly, it totally changed everything, which I'm very familiar with. This is what therapists do all the time. We comment on what's happening so that we can start to shift things. When it goes uncommented on, you can't do it. But one of the things that I thought about the meeting is that I didn't realize it, but it's us hanging out. And if we don't get to hang out, then when we do the show, it's like we're getting reacquainted.
Yeah.
And we never had to do that. We weren't getting reacquainted. We were in a weekly thing where we were seeing each other at least twice a week, hanging out the whole time. So I think one of the things that made me think of is how important it is to see the people that you do care about, because we kind of take that for granted. And during the pandemic, it's been that way even more in some ways, although I suppose, there's virtual communication. But you just realize you need the time with people. I almost said the FaceTime with people, but that is a totally different connotation. You need the time with people regularly to feel in the loop. We needed to connect, and we needed to connect on the reality of whatever our experience was. And for me, I think part of it was I was so confident in who we are and how we do these things that I was like, we'll be fine. We'll just show up and do it like normal. But during it, I was like, well, this is good, but what's missing? Like something just felt not quite right. And so, I don't know, I figured in the production meeting, I'm just going to say it, because that's what we do.
I know.
So
I was so glad that you said it, though. It was like when you said it, I was like, "Oh, I'm not the only one," and it's weird that we feel like this, because this is what the show is about. The show is for us to connect, to become better men, to help each other out, to talk what we want to talk about and not hold anything back. And it was crazy how we did the first season, and then coming back in the second season after taking that break, then we were like, oh, we were all a little like, oh God, no, and in practice makes perfect. I mean, honestly, Eric could probably relate. It's like not doing a show for a month, and then you got a show coming up on stage. As a comic, you think about that. As a comic, you're like, damn, it's been a month. I'm gonna be rusty. I haven't done a joke, and I feel like what you're saying, Dr. Dan. I feel like this is such a hangout. For us to do this podcast is just to like get here and like hang out with each other, talk shit, laugh, try to help each other out, help someone listening. So I didn't think about it like that. I thought we was gonna pick right up exactly like you, like where we left off, and it's crazy how we were like boom. But this episode's gonna be great.
I
right?
think we all felt that, I'm pretty sure. But then the interesting thing is once you're in it, you're like, well, I'm not gonna be the one to be like, hey guys, I think what's happening here? Like you can't. I guess
then my camera gave out too.
Interesting.
And then my camera gave out. Even my camera was like, I don't agree with this shit, and cut off. That should have been a sign.
That's why the battery killed itself, right? You had to replace it. The battery committed suicide. I refuse to be a part of this.
I can't take this anymore. But
it's funny how our own how we were feeling at the moment kept us from just being 100% open and honest right after the taping when we pressed stop. And it wasn't that it wasn't great. It's just that we knew we left something off. We knew that. We didn't know exactly what it was. But it's funny. We all felt a certain way, and none of us brought it up. But I'm glad Dan did. I'm really glad Dan brought it up.
You know what? What happened, too, is when we didn't bring it up, it was like we were just three individuals doing our thing. But there was no us. Not exactly. I'm overstating it, but I think that's a part of it.
Yeah,
the minute I and this is why talking's so important. The minute I said it, we could laugh about it and be like, "Oh, yeah." And then suddenly there was the three of us again.
Exactly. And I want the viewers to understand that we don't get to see each other in person. Dr. Dan is Ohio, Eric's in New York, I'm in LA. So we don't if we had that chemistry, if we got to see each other at least once a week in person and built that bond that people, normal friends have by seeing each other, but we don't have that. And if I recall correctly, after the first episode, we had to go. Usually we stay on. Usually we'll do an episode and be like, how do we feel about that? And we'll think of a name. But that day, I think we all had something to do, and we just boom, bounce, and then I think we bounced with that thing in our head. I'm like, oh my God. And I thought about it. I was like, damn, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm like, it was so good, and then to come back and then boom, boom. But we decided to keep it. We decided to let you guys see it for that same reason, to let you know that this is an example. Sometimes even when you feel comfortable on doing something, not doing it for a couple of weeks could really, really throw you off. So
yeah. Hey, Dr. Dan, what's the longest period of time you went without being a therapist? Like longest vacation period that you did no therapy sessions, you didn't do anything therapeutically based?
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but I started seeing patients in grad school in 1999, and I would say probably 3 weeks is the most I've taken off from any sessions at all. That's not that long, right?
No, but you know what? That's probably a good idea, because, it's one thing for a comic to be rusty and we miss a punchline. It's another thing for you to give bad therapy because you ain't been doing it for a while. And the guy's like, I want to end it. Go ahead.
It's fine.
Oh, man, I forgot. So it's probably better that you don't have a lot of time off.
How did it make you feel, though, to take those few weeks off, Dr. Dan? Did you feel like you missed it? There was like a part of your life missing?
I mean, it's probably dependent on the vacation.
Hear people's things?
What was that?
Or was it a relief to be like, I don't have to hear people's shit?
Listen, there's going to be a mix of it. I mean, for sure. There's, it's one of the reasons that I've diversified what I do. Because if I was just seeing patients and that was my only gig, it puts a lot of pressure on that. And then, and back then when I was seeing more patients, I did feel when I would hit vacation, like, it's not that I didn't want to hear people's shit. I wouldn't categorize it that way, but I was.
You repeated it.
But I was relieved to not have to feel the weight of that on my shoulders, to feel like I could almost just return to my own normal living. But being a therapist is funny that way, because it's like now I've done it so long and for so much that it actually doesn't weigh on me nearly as much as it used to. And it's not because I don't care. I actually probably care even more deeply in what I've been able to build into what I do. But when you're really just in the flow of things, it's very easy. And I actually think that's part of what surprised us about last time, is we thought we would just be in the flow, and then we weren't. And I can have that happen even in a therapy session. After doing it all these years, I can just be like, something doesn't feel right. And you know what I do? I do the same thing I did in the production meeting. I just do it sooner. I'm like, let's jump in here. There's something happening here. What's going on? Or if it's just something I know that's just in me, I kind of do it with myself. But I do say it. I name it.
Nice.
3 weeks is not a long time, though. I would just say
that's what kind of blew my mind when you asked that question.
That's not because you're talking about since 1999. That's a long time to be. And 3 weeks is the longest, and that's with you getting married, having children. That's a pretty amazing number if you think about it, Edgar. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Because
we're Latinos,
right? I mean, I can go 3 weeks without doing comedy just because my shit's a little dry. You know how it is, Edgar. Sometimes not this weekend.
It's like when you take a vacation.
Next weekend.
It's like when you go from work and you got like a week's vacation, 2 weeks vacation, and it's like you're on vacation and you're enjoying your vacation, but in the back of your head you're already thinking about what you're getting back to with work. Was it like that? Like you ever be on vacation and it's like, oh, it's about to finish Friday. Oh, it's gonna finish. Oh, I gotta get back to this. I gotta get back to that. Did it feel like that, or it's just like completely disconnected? You're like, okay, this feels great.
You mean me or Eric?
Yeah, no, you, Dr. Dan.
Oh, okay.
For you.
Yeah, he doesn't care what I think.
I was just waiting to hear what the comics, perspective
Eric
on it
has
was.
never taken vacation.
But you know what? I would say it could be varied. There were times where I'd come back from vacation, I'd be like, I didn't get a whole lot of time off. It didn't feel like time off. I don't think I'm ready. And then I found that I got there and my mind was really refreshed, much more than I thought. And then there are other times where I was like, I mean, look, when you have certain kinds of vacations, especially when you have young kids, sometimes that's not a vacation. I call that a family trip. That's not a vacation. Like, I love my kids, but it could be really a lot of work. And so sometimes, I remember actually when I had
Tell us how you really feel, Dr. Dan.
I would go to the office sometimes and be like, oh, I can finally breathe. Like, in some ways, that was easier.
On a Sunday. Like, what is he doing in the office on a Sunday?
It's varied throughout my career what it has felt like to return back. But what I found most important is that varying what I do makes everything fresher. It's much better that way.
Okay. So yeah, I guess this is something that we learned from this first episode. No matter how often you do something, you know, taking a little break from it could actually throw you off when you get back. And I learned my lesson, and I promise you guys that if I ever feel uncomfortable about anything, I'm going to let you know as soon as, you know, if we should do it right at the moment, right, Dr. Dan? Not even wait. Why wait? And just,
look, I think
right
one of the things that could have made that episode even better is if one of us, like, early in was like, do you guys notice how rusty we are? Like, I don't know. I feel that way, you know? If we just break it open, that's what this show's all about, is just break it open. Let's just talk.
Exactly. Talking. So with that being said, let's get into it, man. Let's get into the show. Let's get into old news, man. So like always, Eric and I love the way Dr. Dan brings in old news. So Dr. Dan, take us in. I just want you to know, Dr. Dan, if you don't do it right, I'll make you do it again, because this openness that we have.
That sounds fine. We're all about the process here. We talk about it. Here we go.
Let's see.
It's time for old news, maybe from yesterday. I don't even know if I turned the right direction.
Did that pass? Did that pass?
I don't know. Did it pass?
Season 2 is to the right.
I can do it. I can do it again if you want.
Nah. Let's do it. Come on, Eric.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, so got a news story here that's sports related, but also connected to the topic of today's little discussion. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence today. And the article I'm using as an example was an article written about Tom Brady. If you're a sports fan, or even if you're not, you know he's probably the greatest quarterback that ever lived. However, he did lose this past season and was ousted by the eventual world champion LA Rams. So he was asked a bunch of questions, obviously, after the game. And the question he was asked the most was, are you ready to retire? Are you ready to retire? And he kept answering, saying, I haven't put much thought into it. And then he said, now is not the time for this question. Or I'm only 5 minutes ahead right now. I'm not thinking that far ahead. And the article, which I found interesting, noted that this is a sign of an emotionally intelligent person based on how he made the decision on how to react to those questions. Now, before I continue, let me just give you a brief definition of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to understand, use, and manage our emotions, and to help us build strong relationships, make good decisions, and deal with difficult situations. And a lot of what we can get out of it is to be able to accept criticism and responsibility, being able to move on after mistakes, being able to say no when you need to, and being able to share your feelings with others. And what the writer was saying about this article, about Tom Brady's reaction, is that he didn't let the emotions of the moment, the fact that he just lost, and he just got ousted on a game that he made a tremendous comeback and almost won the game. So it was a very emotional time for someone that is a legendary player, but he compartmentalized his decision-making. And the writer made a great point, and it's a quote I think I would like to include as part of this, is never make a permanent decision, based on a temporary emotion. So, he didn't let his temporary emotions allow him to go and make a permanent decision at that time. He knew he had to go back, assess himself, assess his situation, the way he feels, to make a decision that was best for him. And the article was indicating that that was a sign of emotional intelligence, and it recommends that you don't make permanent decisions after a bad day, after a vacation, after a fight or an argument, or when you're tired or hungry. If you're not in an optimal situation, it recommends that you don't make decisions at that time. But I just find the concept of emotional intelligence very interesting. I wanted to bring the topic here to see what you guys think about it, see how you think we could apply it to our lives, and how much of emotional intelligence is a part of therapy. That's something I'd like to talk to Dr. Dan about.
Well, I'm happy to jump in with that particular topic just as a starting point, but I wanted to talk more generally about it because as you were talking about this, I was like, well, That's 100% true. I do read what Tom Brady said as emotionally intelligent. I think a lot of people would read it as guarded, like I just don't want to tell you. But if you believe what he's actually saying, and I do, he's living a particular way within himself. To me, that's a key part of emotional intelligence. It's not just do you say the right things that bring up good responses or even good results, but it's a process. To me, that's the key. Is emotional intelligence is not something that you just do, as a kind of general way of being. You do it every single moment. In fact, that's exactly what we're talking about the first show. Mm-hmm. We're emotionally intelligent enough that we knew something was up, but we didn't engage in that moment in the most emotionally intelligent way. If we had, and this is why I feel like, to me, that show was good. But I think the reason our show is great is because we use emotional intelligence all the time, over and over and over. And the same is true with a therapy session. Like, you were asking, well, how does it feel to come back from vacation? Do you feel rusty? That sort of thing. And the thing is, I generally don't, because I treat each moment the same. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what it'll be, but I know I can be right here. That's a huge part of emotional intelligence. It's probably a huge part of why Tom Brady has been successful in his actual football career, because it's a moment-to-moment experience. And, I'm a mind-body therapist, so, like, the physical performance that they put out there is going to depend on the moment, and you got to keep flowing with your moments.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I am so lost in this topic.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I am emotionally intelligent, and I'm like, I'm hearing you guys talk, I'm thinking about everything. I'm like, man, that's probably why none of my relationships worked in the past. Well, because the way you said it, Eric, you said that Tom Brady didn't answer those questions at that moment, right? Mm-hmm. And then he went back to ask it. But then there's times, like you said, Dr. Dan, that we should have addressed it at the moment, but we didn't. So it's a different, right? There's two different ways if you really look at it, right?
Well, actually, let me clarify how I was thinking about it. To me, Tom Brady was addressing that moment. He was doing what I'm saying, like take action in there. That doesn't mean take action about whether he's going to retire or not. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the moment. Like, do you see what I mean? It's you got to know which moment you're in.
Mm-hmm. And because if you let yourself go by that, you can make a drastic decision right away. He's all That's down right. and shit. Oh my God, I lost. Maybe it's time to retire. Once you say something like that, it's done. So it's crazy, but I can see how it could affect everyday life as well. It could be with work, it could be with a relationship, it could be in any aspect too, right?
Well, not only that, but I think this is an important way to think about kind of the architecture of this show in terms of why it is important to talk about things is, the way I think about any given day is that there are thousands of moments. It's a long day in that way with lots of changes. And if you think about it, you know this to be true. Because you could get up in the morning and be like, oh, I'm feeling grumpy, and then something cheers you up, and then you're in a different place, and then something knocks you down, you're in a different place. And some people talk about, people with lots of mood swings. Look, everybody has them. If you're really looking at it, every day is an odyssey. It is a journey. And even the episodes, they're journeys. I don't know where it's going to go. That's part of the beauty of it, But as long as you can stay in the moment and enjoy that moment, then you can let yourself have thousands of different moments per day. So does it apply to everyday life? Not only does it apply to everyday life, but it applies thousands of times a day.
That really sounds like a long day.
I know. I was just like, I think I just overwhelmed them.
No, but
you guys are both like, forget it, I retire. Right.
No, but Bob, I'll use Brett Favre as a perfect example. I mean, Brett Favre retired and unretired, 5 times? You know what I mean? But he was an emotionally expressive guy, and as soon as he felt like he couldn't do it, he just said it, I quit. And people stopped taking him seriously after a while. You know what I mean? Until he could no longer actually play. So I think I give Brady credit for being in the moment in a situation where a lot of people wouldn't. I think that's the first step to actually. You got to figure out your emotional intelligence baseline first before you can start to build on it, right? I mean, you have to know where you are as far as being aware of your own emotions and how they affect you and your decision making and your relationships. It's you need to kind of know where you're at first before you can improve, Dr. Dan, or does that sound like that makes any sense?
No, I completely agree, but it's interesting because I was thinking about the concept of emotional intelligence in general, and I think that the prevailing attitude when people hear the term emotional intelligence is like, oh yeah, it's that other intelligence that doesn't actually mean smart. Like they think that intelligence means smart, and emotional intelligence is like, yeah, you're good with people. But actually, if you think about it, in some ways, I don't know if it's the other way around, but at the very least, I would say that emotional intelligence is a very multifaceted issue. So this thing that you're bringing up about Tom Brady and decisions and not responding in the moment, that's just one aspect of emotional intelligence. There's so many others. You can say that an emotional intelligence is you walk into a room and you read the room. You're like, that person, something's going on there. And you might be picking up things and you don't even know what it is. Emotional intelligence is multifaceted. So I just wanted to break that open and actually ask you guys, how do you think about emotional intelligence? I know you read this article on Tom Brady describing an aspect of it, but how do you think about it generally?
Well, in general, I think that, in the ways that I use it in my life personally is I guess it also helps in kind of what I do for a living, both in my day job and as a comedian. Like I know not to make sure I don't have an answer formed to a question before the person finishes asking it. Because that means that I'm putting my thoughts and feelings on their statements and words, and their emotions are going to be replaced by mine, and their needs are going to be not met, but mine might be met. So I believe empathy is a huge factor in emotional intelligence, to be empathetic of others, which is not a common, not everybody can have that, but that to me, I see that as being the core of emotional intelligence, to have empathy for others, for yourself. That's what I consider the foundation.
I like that answer. Edgar, tell me what you're thinking. Including, I'm totally lost. Get me out of here.
I don't know. I'm thinking that as I'm hearing you guys talk, I'm thinking about how am I emotionally intelligent? What? Like if I had to ask you guys a question about myself, like, Dr. Dan, do you think I'm emotionally intelligent, and in what aspect? What would you say about me?
Okay, so yes, I think you are very emotionally intelligent for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons that I would have guessed you were emotionally intelligent even when I first met you, and part of the reason is that I think comedians are very emotionally intelligent, because comedy is all about playing with expectations. And you have to understand what people are expecting, and then you have to give them the opposite, or you have to surprise them in some way. That's what is funny, as far as I know. You guys know better than me, maybe, but I think the idea is you have to understand people. To me, though, there's two parts to emotional intelligence. There's are you emotionally intelligent just in your nature, and then do you behave in emotionally intelligent ways because of it? And they can be very, very different. So I think your average comedian is extremely emotionally intelligent in terms of understanding. Then what do they do with it? And that can be a mixed bag. A lot of times comedians sometimes will, I think, do the funniest thing because they're like, what would be the least emotionally intelligent thing I could do here? And I'm going to go ahead and do it, because it's funny. That's hilarious. But Edgar, I also know you on a personal level, and you have tremendous emotional intelligence in terms of bringing empathy to other people. The fact that you wanted to do this show is emotionally intelligent.
That's exactly it. That says it all. He put this together. I mean, this was your brainchild. So if that's not a sign.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a sign of emotional intelligence to have doubt. My podcast is called Crushing Doubt. And it's all about the fact that, listen, the smarter you are, the more likely you're going to have doubts about yourself and about everything. So that's a sign of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, but how can emotional intelligence be negative? How could it ruin someone? You know, I don't know why I keep thinking about relationships. I mean, I hear you, and I hear that, yeah, I am emotionally intelligent when it comes to comedy, when I'm on stage and I'm that persona, but caring for someone because I'm thinking about my previous relationships and the way I was so emotionally intelligent because I expected things that I didn't get, and I kept on trying and trying and trying. So is that like a bad habit from emotional intelligence that would keep us in the same page because we can't move on until we get what we want?
Hey, I think there are lots of downsides to emotional intelligence. It's not. I wouldn't say that I would prefer to not have it, or I would prefer other people to not have it, but there are downsides to it. And so one of them is, let's take empathy, for example. Empathy is a great thing to have, but if you have it in too large a dose in a given situation, then you cannot put a boundary in place. You can't behave in a way that allows you to operate happily. You might, if you heard the term codependent, it's like when you feel like your happiness depends on the other person and their happiness depends on, you're like too entwined. Empathy tends to lead to codependency. And so what you have to do is figure out, and this is what I meant about how emotional intelligence is about who you are inside, and then it's also about what you do. I 100% believe who you are inside is incredibly emotionally intelligent. I do think that what happens outside, you probably have been sometimes weighed down by some of the disadvantages of being emotionally intelligent. It happens all the time when people say, "Oh, people are they're the oversensitive type." I don't believe that people are oversensitive. I believe that they're emotionally intelligent. What are they going to do with that, though? Maybe they have way too much dosage of empathy or of taking the other person's perspective and then not being able to be sure enough about their own. There's often a downside to some of the greatest things. In my family, we have a saying, which is that people have the defect of their virtues. To me, that's a really important line because it's like, these are virtues. They're great to have, but there's a downside to it. And if you are so emotionally intelligent that you're picking up on everything, you could become paralyzed. I was working with a woman, I obviously won't express, specifics about it, but she was basically saying she couldn't even drive because she was afraid of the potential that she could hit somebody. Like she was thinking so far in advance of not harming people that she was paralyzed. And I do think that's what happens to a lot of people. That's an extreme example, but it illustrates an important point.
But it's true. I could see that. I could see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, you were caring about the person that was doing wrong by you in the relationship more than you cared about yourself.
Exactly. And I don't know. I think just thinking about last season and everything that we shared and our walking the walks and everything else, that's what I'm thinking about. I see everything so different now, and I'm like, damn, was I the problem because I was so emotionally invested because I wanted this to work so badly, And then it's like, so I think it's good sometimes to be emotionally invested, but it could be evil as well. It could be really bad if you don't know how to step back from it. If you don't,
I mean, another thing I wanted to mention, another important component to trying to improve your emotional intelligence, or one of the steps that are necessary, is they put it in like that you got to be able to be self-aware. You have to become more self-aware. If you're not self-aware of what you're feeling, you're not going to know how your feelings are affecting you. You know what I mean? And to only focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
I think that's important because if you focus on things that are out of your control, I don't care how zen you get, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. But I guess being self-aware is really hard. I would think that's why people spend years in therapy, right, Dr. Dan? I mean, true self-awareness, or becoming self-aware so that you take your health and your mind and your body first. That's not something that happens that quickly, right?
Well, it's not in one respect, but what's interesting is a lot of people come to therapy very, very self-aware of certain aspects and not of others. So it's more that there's an unevenness to things. Some people need to get self-aware of certain things, and then there's other people who they're so self-aware that they're self-conscious and they can't just enjoy the moment. And so I find it's a mix. I've worked with both sides. I've even worked with both sides in the same person. where you're self-aware about these things, but you're not at all self-aware about this aspect. I do think that being self-aware, it takes everything takes balance, but being self-aware takes a certain type of balance. You want to know what's going on with you, and then you want to be able to put that knowledge down so that you can enjoy your life. Otherwise, self-awareness becomes tyrannical.
Do you think women are more emotionally intelligent than men?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know if there are statistics to even that even gauge it by gender, broken down by gender. But I will take a look. Hold on.
All right, go take a look. And while you're, I'm gonna speculate here. I do think that women probably are more emotionally intelligent than men in general, and part of the reason I say that is that women, and this has been proven true in many, many ways, including just biologically and by some studies, that women mature faster than men. And I joke about it sometimes that I'm like, I'm 47 years old, so I'm like basically like a 30-year-old woman. Like, they mature so much faster.
I'm 29 then. Jesus.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think there is something in men, generally speaking, where there's a lag on that. But it's part of what women love about us too. Is we can have that kind of boyish immaturity and more playfulness because we're not so emotionally intelligent in a way, in some ways. And then there's other ways in which I look at this completely differently, which is maybe men and women are just emotionally intelligent about different things. And maybe we just don't line up that well in that particular way. And I suspect it's some combination of both, because there are plenty of times where I will notice a kind of repeating trend where I'm like, I feel like the guys are getting this better than the girls in this particular situation. And to me, that's because you can be emotionally intelligent about different aspects. So I'm not saying that to waffle. I just think that things are complicated.
No, I think you're right, because I looked at a quick study. Now, statistically, women have a slightly higher as far as being more emotionally intelligent, but they didn't break it down into areas in what they're emotionally intelligent about. Just general numbers, and the difference was very, very slight.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is right. I think there are certain things that just culturally and men are just more emotionally aware of, and there are just things that women are just more emotionally aware of than us, and that's just the way it is. Or there may be some men that are like, I'm not emotionally intelligent when it comes to my bad habit of smoking. I should know better, but I'm not acknowledging that part. It's a decision I'm making. So there's an area where I admit I'm lacking in emotional intelligence there, because I should know better. And that's something that directly affects my life. You know what I mean? Every day, and affects the people around me. So, it's a flaw. I mean, but it's my flaw. I accept it. I own it. And I know that it's up to me to decide what I'm going to do with it. But, at least I'm aware of it, and I know it's something that I need to work on.
Which that takes some emotional intelligence right there. But I want to add one other thing, which is society also has played a big role in emotional intelligence and whether it gets displayed or not. I think for a long time, it was not cool for a guy to show emotional intelligence. And even with women, they'd be like, don't show that. You're supposed to, go be the meathead who doesn't understand these things. And we talked about this last season. All three of us felt that at certain points, the societal pressure to kind of be different than we were. I was looking around and I was like, I have the emotional intelligence here, but I'm not going to bring it out at certain moments. And to me, that's really changing quite a bit in a way that I'm very happy about. It's funny when you assess the state of the world and you think, are we in a better place or a worse place? It varies depending on your measurement. But one of the measurements that I think we are better off in is the idea that emotional intelligence is actually valued and you're allowed to show it.
Yeah. And I just think just discussing mental health in general has become, I see so many commercials now saying, do you need help to find the right therapist? Don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm seeing commercials on the air promoting finding therapy at a rate that I have never And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the pandemic having accelerated that growth of understanding and acceptance of mental health, because when the whole world is on fire, then people really start have to admitting that they're not okay. They need help. So I like the direction we're going. What I don't like is that there's still always going to be, and I guess there always will be, a group of people that will always look down on you because of it and judge you because of it, and wonder if you are, and make negative assumptions about you because of it. And I that's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think.
I think it is changing in percentage, though, and that's a very important part. Like, I really think we're headed to a place where 90% of people will not be like that.
That'd be nice.
Well, it's changed a lot. Like,
Eric looked up. He said,
"No, listen.
Thank God.
You know what it is? It kills me. It's because we've become, particularly in this country, we've become so binary in our thinking that we've lost the ability to learn from one another and accept the best parts of theories and just form a great idea that fits everybody. You know what I mean? It's either you're right or you're wrong. And once you draw that line in the sand, all communication stops, because now you just assume the person in front of you is wrong. You don't listen. So, I mean, I think that that's another big part of knowing when you're not listening, because your emotions are affecting your judgment. That prevents good dialogue. That prevents learning. That prevents growth, in my opinion. True growth can only come from compromise. It can't come from a binary setup.
I think that's a great observation, and I wanted to say something. This is another piece of emotional intelligence, actually, is to recognize the subtleties of things, and that people are more than one thing. So when people are not being that emotionally intelligent, they hear one aspect of you, and then they put you in that camp. Okay, you are that way. And that's not emotionally intelligent, because it's not going to pick up on the reality of human beings. And I think your point is a great one, Eric, and very important for us to think about, because I think we're doing damage in society by losing that. It's especially happening in politics. I don't like to get political, but I do think that people hear a political party or a political idea, even just an idea, and they think, well, now you are over here, and I'm over here. And we stop talking. It's the exact opposite of this show. It's like everybody's shutting down talking because of that.
Yeah. Interesting, bro.
I just shut down talking right here.
You shut down the whole panel. I don't know. I think, honestly, I think that more men should be more emotional intelligent. I mean, I think as men, and for the viewers and listeners, I mean, try to connect with it. Try to let it help you. I feel like women, like you said, Dr. Dan, and it's not that much difference in the studies, but I feel like women have it more than we do as men. I think we're stubborn. I think a man would gladly admit that he's emotionally intelligent when it comes to sports, and he could relate with that, as a different with women. Women would probably be emotionally intelligent when it comes to relationships and family and everything else. But, so I think if we connect more in other aspects, it will help us out and be better men, no?
I agree, but I think increasingly it's getting mixed. I see lots of families where I see like the dads being more emotionally intelligent here. And I think some of that is because of the freedom that both genders are getting to have to just like be more fully human beings. So I agree with you, especially from that maturity standpoint. But I think when it comes down to it, emotional intelligence comes from many different aspects. If you had an emotionally intelligent parent of either gender, you're more likely to be an emotionally intelligent person easily because you've experienced it.
Yeah. Nice.
And it's not just the personal life. I did quite a bit of research for this particular topic. Most of the facts and the data that was on this topic wasn't related to much of the personal life. They mention how it could help strengthen relationships and help improve your personal life. And this is something I know we don't talk about this as often as we do, because this show's about talking and emotions. But I also think that a big part of what men consider themselves as part of their identity is what they do for a living and how they earn that living. And I think everybody has that strong feeling about it. But males have been known to really consider their jobs very important. And the emotional intelligence is becoming the hot thing that employers are looking for looking for people in leadership skills. I mean, I did this research. 87% of millennials, which are going to be the future workers, are motivated more by the emotional intelligence of their leaders, but rather than their knowledge of the job. The 37 organizations surveyed developed different leadership programs promoting emotional intelligence. People with high emotional EQs make an average of $30,000 more than people with lower emotional quotients. I mean, that's crazy. In Europe, they did it. They did this test in Europe. Organizations that widely use emotional intelligence are 3.2 times more effective at leadership development. And so, I mean, it's something that, it could help you with your emotions, with how you interact with others. But to me, the most important thing is how you do with yourself. You know what I mean? Which is the first relationship you should have is with yourself, and then
how do you understand it? How do you understand it yourself? You know, how do you make it work for you?
Right. You know, and I think that starts with, to me, just knowing who you are and what you feel and how they affect you and what you can do with those feelings and use them to be a strength and not a weakness. You know, you could apply that to your job as well. I mean, just when you're at work, decisions cost money. You know, decisions can cost jobs. You know, especially if you're in a leadership position. So I just think that's something that can be applied to both a professional and personal standpoint. And I find that interesting about emotional intelligence.
Yeah, well, there's something called organizational psychology, where you actually kind of go into an organization and you almost do a therapy session with the organization. You look and you know, an organizational consultant will come in and say, okay, well, this isn't working so well. This person's not well suited to this position, and you make recommendations. But I think any good organization, and this is why I am so optimistic about this part of where things are going, and why I think, you know, I would say 90% of people are not going to respond as if it's bad to be emotionally intelligent or share these things, is people see that it makes a difference. And if you think about it, we've all had these experiences in work experiences where somebody did something and you were like, not only was that annoying and bad, but it set us up for failure. It set us down the wrong path. And nobody wants that. It does waste huge amounts of time. You can spend all your time cleaning up messes from one person who's not so emotionally intelligent, just setting fires everywhere they go. And no employer is going to want that, really, when they think about it. Now that they're onto that, which I'm really glad they are, it's a big part of societal change.
Yeah. Because before they just looked at your requirements. Do you fit the requirements of the job? And now they want to know, you know, are you capable of making good decisions? And are you somebody that I want to spend 8 hours a day with 5 days a week? I mean, when you're at work, you spend more time with those people than you do your own families. You know, depending on your work situation, you're literally spending 1/3 of your life with a group of strangers in a strange building. So, you know, you got to take those things into consideration before you bring someone into the workforce. I guess, like, I haven't had a day job in so long. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. I'm all comedy.
I haven't had a 9 to 5 in a long time.
The last time I spent 8 hours with a coworker, the comic fell asleep. That's what happened. He fell asleep.
No, but I asked if it affected men more because I know how we could be as men. You know, I know how tough we could be, the whole macho shit. I'm pretty sure you go up to your boy, we're like, yo, son, you're not emotionally intelligent. He goes, no, I'm intelligent, but I'm not emotional, because it just sounds like weakness for a man, you know? If you go up to your boy like, dude, you're way too emotional intelligence, you'd be like, no, hell no. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, and I think men are more stubborn when it comes to that. And that's why they don't know how to, like, acknowledge it or work with it, you know?
Well, see, that I would think that term would be more attractive than, because, you know, not for nothing, there are certain terms that people will automatically kind of flinch when you bring it up. Like if I say, yo, Edgar, man, let's talk about, you know, how we could improve your mental health. You know, and you'll be like, the first reaction is gonna be, what? But if I say,
I ain't crazy.
I exactly, you'd be like something like, no. But if I said, you know, Edgar, I think I can help you grow your emotional intelligence or improve your emotional intelligence. Nobody ever says, nah, I want to stay as dumb as I am. If you give anyone the opportunity to be more intelligent, very few people would turn down the opportunity. And that's why I like the term and how it can be used, not because, it's some phenomenon that solves all, but I do like that it packages it in a positive way. And semantics matter. Semantics matter. You know what I mean? The words you choose when you present something matters. And I think people get really shielded when you say the words mental health. Yes, it's more open, it's more accepted, but the first reaction to most people is to do the crane technique and want to kick you in the face, like Daniel's saying. Get away from me. So, but if you say I could see you growing, I could see your intelligence growing emotionally if you maybe take a few minutes to do this for yourself or think about something this way. I think it would be more appealing that way, but that's just me.
Hey, listen, you can make it even more appealing. This is part of the emotional intelligence of a therapist. The way I would phrase it is, I want to take the strength you already have and enhance it even more. Then it's like, well, now there's nothing at stake. Because you're...
There you go.
That's
why you're a therapist, brother. That's
now
why
drop and give me 20 push-ups.
Comedians.
Yeah.
He said, yeah.
Yeah. Darn right.
Actually,
no, but please finish your point.
Well, I was actually going to transition to something else because, so on this show, we had started doing a segment towards the end of the show called Brotherly Love, where we do a shout out. And we were going to do a shout out to somebody here. And we were like, well, let's find somebody who did something emotionally intelligent. And you would think that would be really easy to find. And maybe it would have been if we were searching in different ways. But we were going directly for it, like who are emotionally intelligent, like celebrities. And I found the internet was hilarious about this to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just was like, so here's the list of, there were 4 people who seemed to come up a lot. One was Michael Jackson. And we were like, why?
What? Now keep in mind, they based these rankings based on their philanthropy, what they've given as far as donations and stuff like that. Like they talked about Michael Jackson raising money for Africa and all this stuff, but really?
But that's the thing. I mean, emotional intelligence is a massively understood term. And so if you just equate it with, philanthropy, here's another one that came up. This one blew my mind. Elon Musk. I was like, okay, he's not known for being emotionally intelligent. He's known for being blunt and not having empathy. And I'm not trying to tear him apart, but I just found this very interesting. That
dude is a robot.
What was that, Edgar?
That dude is a robot. I've never seen an emotion come out of that guy ever. He's just like.
How about David Beckham making 2 lists? David Beckham. All right, like I don't know how kicking a football is emotionally intelligent. Yeah, it gives to some charities, but David Beckham? Really?
Well, the interesting thing is I have no idea. It's like I would have to know what he's like more personally. But like with somebody like Elon Musk, who I've seen in interviews more, and I'm just like, that's not emotionally intelligent. Brad Pitt was mentioned, and so was Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, back to back, which I found ironic, right? Because they're like the 2 most emotionally intelligent people, and they still couldn't make the marriage work with 5 adopted kids.
But I do think that actors also tend to be very emotionally intelligent because they have to understand the motivations of people. They have to understand what's happening in a given scene. Like when I think of Brad Pitt, I do think that he's very emotionally intelligent. I think it's part of his appeal, is he just is that way. Angelina Jolie has it in a totally different way, but she's got it too. You can see it.
How did Michael Jackson get it? That's my question. How did he get it?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say.
Was it the Man in the Mirror song? Is that what it did?
That was a very emotionally intelligent song.
Make that
great song.
Change.
I guess it's because of all the music that he brought out that
Leonardo
changed people's
DiCaprio
lives.
also makes this list, but that's because he keeps recycling and keeps dating younger women.
He does strike me as emotionally intelligent in other ways, though.
Oh no, he's great for the environment. He does a lot of environmental stuff. A big Leo fan, but what he's really doing for the environment is he's like his girlfriends are like the curious cases of Benjamin Button. They just keep aging backwards.
While we were talking about this, though, I quickly Googled who wrote Man in the Mirror because I was like, okay, well, that is a very emotionally intelligent song, but it was not written by Michael Jackson.
Ah, boo.
It was written by his father.
Sita Garrett and Glenn Ballard. Shout out to them because that's a great song.
That is a great song.
Then he shouldn't get it at all.
Well,
What,
wait,
the-
I just realized we just did a shout out. I gave brotherly love to the people who wrote Man in the Mirror. I had no idea it was coming.
So
but
repeat that, Dr. Dan. This week's brotherly love shout out goes to.
well, now I got to search it again. I closed out the thing.
Darn it, Dan.
This is live,
There
people.
goes the chemistry. There goes the chemistry we built so long.
No, but it's crazy
Look,
because it goes to
this is
show
exactly what we
you.
worked for last time. We're just here. I have it now.
Okay.
Okay,
and
there
now-
we go. Take it to the top.
All right. So today, this week's brotherly love shout out goes to.
All right. It goes to Sita Garrett and Glenn Ballard, who wrote Man in the Mirror, which
For
is
Michael
an
Jackson.
extremely emotionally intelligent song.
Make that change.
Make that change.
Man in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what
But
they
it's crazy
say
how
when you go take the bus. Make
When
that
you look
change.
at these stats and all these names that you just mentioned, it's they're looking at their emotional intelligence by what they done, what they have given, which is that it's like just one way to see it, Like you
But
think about
it
Michael
is
Jackson, you
important,
think
though,
about Michael
'cause they-
Jackson. What has Michael Jackson done to get this? But you know what? Maybe it's the music. Maybe it's the way he connected with a lot of people. Maybe his music helped out a lot of people, and that's why they probably saw it in that way.
Well, maybe
know?
even the way that he sang and the way that he expressed his emotion was a form of emotional intelligence. The interesting thing for me, though, I'm not saying any of these people aren't emotionally intelligent. Even Elon Musk, I don't know. Doesn't seem to be. But to me, what struck me as so funny is that the internet is such a blunt instrument sometimes. You put in a search and you're just like, search emotional intelligence celebrity, and the kinds of things that came up. I mean, there's some really funny things. Like one question was, is Elon Musk empathic? Like, who's searching that? Like, you're going to ask the internet if a human being is empathic? That's just weird. Then there was another one. Was Martin Luther King emotional? I was like, what? Where did these topics even come from?
Because he couldn't show any emotion while he was being terrorized his whole life. Gee, what do you want him to do? Smile? Hey,
Yes.
how are you? You know what I
just-
mean? Come on.
Well, listen,
That's
the,
crazy.
the way the internet was most useful, I thought, was they had lists like 5 traits of emotional intelligence. So here was a list. Thoughtful and approachable. They admit mistakes and know how to apologize. They notice burnout and understand balance. They practice self-care. They honor everyone's uniqueness. Like that to me, yeah, okay. It was somehow, I guess, mixing in the specific names where the internet came up with an algorithm. It just shows you how computers are not nearly as smart as the human brain. And it's partly because of emotional intelligence. Computers have no emotional intelligence at all.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Except for Hal.
Yeah, well,
Who?
I don't know. I suppose he had a form of emotional intelligence.
What are you trying to say, Dan?
I'm sorry, Eric.
Eric 9.
With that being said, I want the viewers and listeners, man, to please comment down below, man. If you are a man who feels that you are emotionally intelligent, please describe down below how you are emotionally intelligent. Because I wanna, and we need to talk about this more. We need to acknowledge it, see it, and recognize it, and see how it could make us better, and see how it could be holding us back at the same time, and hopefully work around it. Because it's a very important topic. So thank you, Eric, for bringing it up, man.
Yeah, and let
thank
me
you
just
for-
add, don't just list, how you see yourself as emotionally intelligent, because a lot of times we learn from other people. That's part of emotional intelligence. So if you've seen emotionally intelligent things, share those stories. We want to hear those. So I'll take us out here, guys.
Nice. Anything else you want to say, Eric?
Yeah.
No, man. Just always. I'm so glad that we're getting to talk again. Look forward to the next time.
I just want to say that I feel really good about this one. I felt like this one was a little bit like, okay, sometimes you let yourself go by all the lights, the setup, and everything else, and it's just this one. I felt like we really connected. Thank you, brothers. I love you guys. I love you. That's how I'm emotionally
Love you back,
intelligent.
bro.
I could tell
Love you too,
another
man.
man that I love you, and thank you for being here. So with that being said, man, Dr. Dan, take us out.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure. Thanks again, guys. It's great being here with you. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.
Boom.
Brothers in arms. Primordial.
Emotional.
Chorizo.
Change the definition of machismo.
Chorizo. He
Calvin
said
Klein,
chorizo. He
chorizo.
loves chorizo. I'm gonna invite Dr. Dan to the Bronx to eat
When you
chorizo.
when you spray the bottle, it makes a sizzling sound.